Welcome to the PowerSpeakingPro channel. This is where I give you tips to help you improve your speaking and communication skills. Hi, my name is George Manette and glad to have you aboard. Slides can convey much useful information, but there are good slides and there are bad slides. In this presentation, I will show you a number of slides that Governor Andrew Cuomo has shown during his press briefings of COVID-19 virus during 2020. Each slide will make a point about what makes a slide good and about what makes a slide bad. So you can follow these points and improve your slides so that you will have an entire slide deck which is all good. I like this slide because it shows the concept of a valve. A valve can be fully open or fully closed or anything in between. And this shows that there's a balance between economic activity and the public health. So the government does have options to control the COVID-19 virus. Governor Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York State, likes to project the fact that he makes decisions only on the facts. This picture is a picture of Jack Webb, who played the character Sergeant Joe Friday in the television show Dragnet. Dragnet originally aired from 1951 through 1959 and reappeared in 1967 and has been on a number of reruns. Some of the younger folks listening to Andrew Cuomo may not get the reference to the Dragnet show, Just the Facts, ma'am. Just the facts. This slide showed that as of a date early in the pandemic, 3,565 New Yorkers died of the COVID-19 virus. This slide is good because it shows the actual numbers by the data points, and it actually has a picture in the background of a hospital bed to talk about hospitalizations. What I don't like about this slide is that there should be a key. What is the gold line for and what is the blue line for? Chart should be self-explanatory without any narrative required. Like the previous chart, it shows actual numbers by the data points. It's better because it shows hospitalizations, and I can easily understand what the chart is about without any narrative. And at the top it says, by the facts. This continues a theme established at the beginning with Dragnet and Sergeant Joe Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. This chart is very easy to read, again because it shows the numbers by the data points. There is no need to reference either a left or right-sided axis. And the description, daily new positive cases, and the dates, March 3rd and March 19th, clearly show what this chart is talking about. At first glance, this chart looks pretty obvious, but the more I look at it, the more confusing it becomes. First of all, each of the lines should be in a different color and should have a key. And there is no date about when New York would need 140,000 beds. And the lower line shows a number of 53,000. Is that the current number of beds? Because there's a dotted line which says current beds, which is below 53,000. So this chart needs some work, even though at first glance it looks fairly straightforward. This chart is very effective because it shows the number of lives lost since the pandemic began in March of 2020. On the left you see March 20, and on the right it goes to July 19th. And it has a bar chart which shows the number of lives lost on a daily basis. And the recent data is shown specifically on the chart on the top of this one, so you can see what's currently happening. My first reaction to this chart is, what is this? This is showing the percentage of people by region who are hospitalized throughout New York State. Given that the majority of the people are in New York City and are averaging someplace about 70%, it's not necessary to show all the dates because not a whole lot is happening. So this chart should actually have one bar instead of all these bars which are shown. This is obviously a concept slide as there are no numbers. The message is New York needs to get over the peak of the COVID crisis. The message, stay home, stop the spread, save lives, is at the bottom. And I like the humor at the top, Battle of the Mountaintop. Although this slide only has 3 numbers on it, I find it to be unnecessarily complex. The main message is that 18% of cases result in hospitalizations. That's 1 out of 5. Perhaps they could have shown 5 people and one of the persons would be in a hospital bed. I'm not sure how many people really appreciate what 18% is. And the actual numbers can be shown at the bottom of the slide. Although this chart has many numbers on it, it is well organized. It shows the largest numbers or the most important numbers at the top, and then it shows the numbers in decreasing order as you go towards the bottom. This is a good way of showing a chart where you need to show many numbers on it. Too many digits on a chart makes a chart difficult to read. This chart was prepared in the very early days of the pandemic, so it was able to show the total cases in 6 or fewer digits. When you have large numbers, show the numbers in terms of thousands of people or tens of thousands of people and reduce the number of digits shown on the chart. For example, instead of 245,484, you could just show 245,000 cases. Reduce the number of digits whenever possible on a chart. In addition to showing too many digits on this chart, the numbers should be right aligned the way numbers traditionally are shown. Unfortunately, this software by default left aligns the numbers, which makes it actually more difficult to read. Try and right align whenever possible. Normally, I would say that this chart is a little bit too busy, but at this point in the pandemic, December 8th, 2020, the viewers have learned to look for the key numbers. This chart shows the key numbers and people are familiar with these and the order in which the chart is shown. So at this point, I would say that this chart is acceptable and does show the key numbers in a consolidated format. This is a great example of having way too many numbers on a chart, and most of the numbers are inconsequential. If you start with the 5 biggest categories, starting with household social gatherings, your top 5 categories account for probably 95% of the total picture. And by the fact there's so many numbers, my eyes went towards those numbers and missed the issue about private household gatherings. If you're going to do something like that when needed, do a pullout on the top 5 numbers. A pullout is really an enlargement of the top 5 numbers. I like this chart because it shows both the date of the 7-day average positivity and the average cases per 100,000. And overlaid on this are key dates. In this case, they talk about Halloween and Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving week is a time of many family gatherings, which does cause an increase in COVID transmissions. But I disagree with the statement that Thanksgiving did not lead to a major spike. If you look at the slope of Thanksgiving week, especially on the left, you see that the slope increased significantly. What you call a spike may be subject to debate, but there was a significant increase in COVID transmission during Thanksgiving week. I believe that the data presented in this chart is extremely misleading. If New York is at 0.9, then that says that the pandemic will be decreasing. Anything less than 1.0 shows a decrease in the pandemic. Anything over 1 shows an increase. So I don't understand why they say 1.2 is a margin of error. 1.2 will expand the number of people who are infected by COVID and will cause problems to the whole entire hospital system at some point in time. Combining a visual with a few words is an effective way to make your point. In this case, the visual is the counties of New York State combined with the words about counties with existing cases and counting counties with new cases. This quickly gives the viewer an easy to see which counties now have new COVID cases. In this example, words are superimposed on a graphic of Long Island, and the names of the hospitals are roughly located on the geographic area of Long Island. This gives the viewer an idea of where these hospitals are located on Long Island. Additionally, the headline on the chart shows that Long Island has a major increase in COVID hospitalizations. As much as I dislike political correctness, I believe that this chart is actually very destructive. On the left, it shows a picture of the Orthodox Jewish community gathering. And the headline says, City planners leave religious institutions open. That sort of implies that religious institutions are okay. But on the right, they continue to show Orthodox Jews in New York, while the second caption says mass gatherings can be a super spreader event. We know there were many protests during this period of time, but yet the Orthodox Jewish community is shown as compared to the protesters without masks. This chart seems to be competing with War and Peace. There are far too many words on this chart. If you need to show this many words, split it into at least 2, perhaps 3 different charts. The other thing is, on charts, make sure all the text is lined up. The chart on bullet point number 1 is more to the left than all of the other bullet points. When presenting charts, be extremely careful about taking extreme positions. This chart seems to say that when comparing the economy to public health, that the economy doesn't have any chance. As the pandemic has continued on, we clearly know that the economy is a very important part of the solution to this pandemic. We know that many people have suffered because the economy has been shut down. I'm a huge fan of not mincing words, and this chart is very straightforward. Knock it off, don't be stupid. How much more obvious can you make this? This chart works well because of the simplicity of the words, and I also like the way the color was used. Actually, they used white for the statement and gold for wrong and wrong. Can there be any misunderstanding about the point of this chart? If you feel the need to put this many words on a chart, I suggest that you actually read the entire quotation. This says that the entire quotation is important as compared to just putting too many words on the chart. Obviously, all the names on this chart are not meant to be read, but it is a good way to show that many people do support your position. I include this chart to show that the background is black, which is a distinct change from the background of all the other charts, which is typically blue. And when you change colors, it's actually a bit jarring to the viewer. Aside from thanking New Yorkers for all that they have done to limit the spread of COVID-19, this chart demonstrates all the good qualities of the charts. There's a consistent format. The background highlights the message, and the colors of gold and white are very effective. The font is sans serif, which means that it's very easy to read. And at the bottom, they have three statements: stay home, stop the spread, save lives. This is the essential message of all the charts, and it's usually shown on many of the charts. Review this video from time to time when you are making your slides. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.